kid grape juice and apple juice. Honesty hindrances. Getting honest about honesty hindrances. Let's look at this one aspect. They say the human psyche, the way it's formed when it comes to beliefs about what we can do, what we can be, what we can have, what we can't have. You know, basically the world around us, the world we live in, and what we are and who we are and what we can be and what we can't be is formed through the ages of basically 1 year old to roughly 7, 8 years old, something like that. Some say 1 to 7, some say 1 to 5. I say it's somewhere in that. Who knows for exact. It's in that general timeline. Anyways, I want to look at this one aspect about having a child that grows up with emotionally immature parents or parent in a non-functional household or toxic household, however you want to label it. And let's say the person is an addict or the parent is an addict. And that could be a cigarette addict, alcoholic addict, over-the-counter pill addict. That's like back in the 70s and the 80s. Did you know all the diet pills on the shelf had 0.25 milligrams of methamphetamine? Not amphetamine, methamphetamine. Yeah, the big Corona, 0.25 milligrams. That means you take 4 of those pills and you had yourself a quarter gram. That's enough to wreck you. That's enough to wreck your life. And but anyways, there were so many women back then in the 70s and the 80s, mothers, functioning mothers on that stuff, high strung all the time, couldn't sleep, always relying on their diet pills, not drugs, because it's over the counter. Add that, plus divorces and other things and money issues and smoking cigarette addiction. Poof, there you go. Plus unresolved previous traumas and generational traumas stemmed all the way from the Civil War era. You know, we think about Civil War time and we think that's so long ago. No, that was just a couple of people ago. We're still getting the echoes of the trauma from that. Guaranteed. But anyways, let's get back up on the main road. Enough of the getting off on the side trails. Anyways, these long-term effects, you know, say a child about 4 years old is asking why they can't have this or can't do that when the parent is smoking cigarettes or whatever, or why they're talking bad about this person or that person, and then the parent just snaps at them. Oh, no reason, just because, or it's none of your business, or you're just a kid, or just whatever, you know. Don't be disrespectful. Things like that. And let's say, because children in between those ages of 4, 5, 6, and 7 are pretty inquisitive, especially in the ages of 4, 5, and 6. Those 3 years right there, they're like a super sponge, just asking millions of questions. And of course, if you got a parent or people around that aren't so psychologically and emotionally healthy, they're going to plant bad seeds in that kid's head, and it's going to go into their innermost being, into their subconscious, and then they're going to go through their life with that dinging around in their subconscious, screwing up their conscious decisions, and they won't even know why. Then add that plus probably, let's add on, say, abandonment issues, like say, okay, let's say something like it was a boy child, and let's say the father was abusive, beat her, the sisters, and then abandons them, leaves them, and then she's got a grudge towards him, and then of course she doesn't like this child because he looks like him. He's a burden. He's an emotional basket case, so to speak, and so is she. So are the other kids, and she's left to hold the bag. She don't have the emotional power to deal with none of that. And then add her other downfalls, cigarette addiction, and of course cigarette addiction, a person has got to literally lie to themselves every time they smoke, every day. They literally have got to make lies seem like truth to make it okay. That's what addiction is. That's what insanity is. And that plus poor money management, plus diet pills, aka 0.25 milligrams of methamphetamine hydrochloride, ticking time bomb. Not a good environment to grow up in. And let's say she uses silent treatment on this child all the time throughout those tender years and continues this game of silent treatment. That's going to make that kid have abandonment issues. Or it could be called something else, chronic post-traumatic stress disorders, however you want to call it. I'm not sure exactly where the lines is of that because it's something that's ongoing. Post-traumatic stress disorder is more of something that happens all at once. But anyways, having said that, let's assume this person has grown up and has taken on extremely unhealthy coping mechanisms by the time they turned into an early teenager, drugs, alcohol, everything destructive, pornography addictions, not habits addictions, and everything that can destroy a person. And add those unhealthy coping mechanisms, and then add years of that. And then have it come to a crashing end to where the person realizes they need to either figure out how to live or figure out how to die. To figure out how to get honest about honesty hindrances. Here's one of my suggestions. Like let's say you're 50 years old. Find something, a simple question that in what ways am I affected by the delusions of someone planting the seeds into my subconscious as a child that there is a such thing as being able to say stuff and do stuff and not have any reason behind it or a point. AKA planting that kind of seed into the child's mind that, oh, you can do this just because, no reason. Oh, they didn't mean nothing by it. See what I mean? Planting those kind of seeds, it's like, yeah, there's reasons behind everything. There's intentions behind everything. There's purposes behind everything. In all of God's creation, there is purposes, intents, reasons behind everything. There is nothing that is not pointless. Everything bears fruit of some kind. Okay, now having said that, so in what ways am I affected by the delusions of thinking that a person can say things and do things without effect? Meaning you can say things and do things that have no reason or no consequences or whatever. It's just because. It's just like no reason behind it. You don't have to worry about it. You can just do whatever and not, stuff that doesn't have any effect, so you can do whatever. That kind of thinking. That's crazy thinking. Okay, now having said that, okay, now in what ways was I affected by that through it being done to me and me accepting it, or being forced to accept it, or being trained to accept it, or being broke down to accept it to the ages of 1 through 4 years old. through the ages of 4 through 7 years old, through the ages of 7 through 9 years old, through the ages of 9 and 10 years old, through the ages of 10 and 12, through the ages of 12 and 13, through the ages of 13 and 15 years old, through the ages of 15 and 18 years old, through the ages of 18 and 21 years old, through the ages of 21 and 24 years old, through the ages of 24 and 28 years old, through the ages of 28 and 30 years old, through the ages of 30 and 33 years old, through the ages of 33 and 35 years old, through the ages of 35 and 38 years old, through the ages of 38 and 40 years old, through the ages of 40 and 42 years old, through the ages of 42 and 44 years old, through the ages of 44 and 48 years old, through the ages of 48 and 50 years old. And we'll stop right there because I'm not quite 52. I turn 52 tomorrow. Anyways, you can see the introspection there. This is kind of my own little method. I've done this a couple of times, and it is nowhere near as easy as the person thinks. Because on some of these things, they may weigh you down so heavy, it's like you can't even hardly write the stuff out on paper. It's like words you normally can spell, you can't spell. It's like there's something in your brain like trying to stop you from doing it. It's pretty trippy stuff. But I can say one thing. This kind of thing, addressing stuff like emotional immaturities, let's talk about that one right there. You know, being honest about honesty hindrances. Emotional immaturities is one of them, and that can be stemmed from abandonment issues. And then that emotional immaturity, that doesn't become mature, and then unhealthy coping mechanisms, drugs, alcohol, cigarette addiction, pornography addiction, workaholic addiction mentality, to make it all work. Add all those addictions, covering all that up, that makes the emotional immaturities even worse. Covers them up, makes it worse. And why does my hand look backwards and upside down in this video like that? That's weird. But anyways, yeah, this introspection. I think the hardest thing for any man or woman to do is honestly face themselves and realize that probably 90-something% of their problems they brought on themselves, even in their so-called innocent years. But you know what? It's like at this point, looking at these kind of hindrances, doing fault finding and blaming of self, others, does absolutely no good whatsoever. None whatsoever. It absolutely helps nothing at all. The only thing that does help is to identify where there are some strengths and try to capitalize on those, and then the weaknesses, the hindered beliefs, the self-sabotaging things that happen, and the mechanisms in the subconscious mind that make those sabotaging things happen, is to figure out what they are and try to reprogram them, try to override them, try to rewrite your own new code. And at this point, I wish it was a simple thing. But subconscious criteria, subconscious beliefs. Once they get programmed, they can be pretty solid. They don't want to let go. They don't let go easy. And who knows, even maybe some people, they can never correct them. But I do know one thing for a fact. Out of things like post-traumatic stress disorders, abandonment issues, depressions, and what's the fourth one? There's basically four of them. Emotional immaturities, those four corners of the emotional problems. They can be minimized or trimmed down. They really can. Maybe not completely fixed. But the good news is if a person works on the stuff diligently, daily, at least little by little, every single day, little by little, mark it on the calendar, mark out 365 of them, do several of those things, little bitty habits, these little bitty micro 3-minute habits, little bitty micro 1-minute habits upon awakening and going to sleep and throughout the day. Life can become tolerable, because that's the trap of most people who are addicts. It's like, take away the drugs and alcohol, can't live with drugs and alcohol, can't live without it. So it's like, well, might as well just follow it all the way to the ground, because you take away all that stuff and it shows all those weaknesses and everything, and all the ugly stuff just poof comes to the surface, and there ain't no hiding it. There ain't no hiding it the other way, but at least you feel like it's being hid. Until it stops working, and then there is no escape. Then you either have to follow it all the way down to death, or figure out how to live. And you know damn well you can't have both. Can't. Anyways, that's tonight's 15-minute speech. That's actually like 17 minutes and 42 seconds right now, as I noticed. Your call to action is, do you ask yourself this? Do you honestly think there's things in life that you can say or do that don't matter because it don't affect anything, or has any kind of effect of anything, that you can just do it and say it or whatever and just get away with it without any kind of effects or consequences? Because if you're a person that has that kind of thinking, that kind of BS probably went into your subconscious criteria when you was pretty young. And it's probably been dinging around in the back of your head, messing you up throughout your life. So anyways, that's the CTA, call to action. See you later. Have a good one. See you in the funny papers.